Okay, we're live. This is good. It's the 29th of October, 2020. I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and I'm running a few minutes behind, as you can tell. What I've got to do here is finish printing these. Well, you know, I could always just go down these. I've got a few to print. I think last time we just looked at them on the screen. That was a little more conserving paper. Let's see what this is. Okay. And so to live streaming. Okay, here we are with live streaming. Our first comment was from Tony Ridlin. And good grief, it's 69 in here. I can turn off the cooler. It's 44 outside. It's warmed up quite a bit, and it's supposed to be back in the 60s this week, so that'll be nice. So Tony Ridlin is KC9QVE in Indiana. Stan Bowen, greetings from Suffolk, Virginia, KK4SB. Anthony Becerra is saying good evening. Optical Man 1, Jeff, KE0KRO, saying hello, Dave, from Sioux Fall in South Dakota. Joe Mercado, KG7JM from San Diego. Probably warm there, it's pretty cold here. Kirk, KM6NIE, Ron Champagne from Maple Ridge, British Columbia. He's VE7BFM. WV8EER says good evening to all. Kirk is in Palmdale, California, place I've been a number of times. WV8EER, Parkersburg, West Virginia. And Todd Gillum says hello to everybody. It's a cool and damp 51 in South Central Kentucky. KM4OCJ, Allen AB8AS, West Virginia. Yeah, the time change. I should talk about the time change, and I will when we formally start the meeting. Don DeGidio says good evening from Philly. No Code Tech is here. Philippe Lewis, good evening. Keith, KC1NYE is on. Andy Cowley, Hashim Al-Husseini. Hello, Dave, good evening. And let's see, we've got KI5KTZ in Dallas. Peter says good evening. Bill Sheehan, KD9GLZ/BE2. No Code Tech. Says Mr. Dave's the sole reason I got my ticket. Good, you're welcome. Let's see, just made 2 FTH contacts to Antarctica. Well, congratulations. M0JGX, James, in the UK. Mark, KK9J. Demiser 1968 is Mike, KE0OEW from Branson, Missouri. Larry Off the Grid is, let's see, I lost him here. I did lose him. Oh, he says good evening. William Goebel says good evening, everyone, from KB5YZD in New Orleans. I understand you guys are getting flattened by a hurricane right now. I hope you're faring okay. 45 in Indiana, according to Mark. Moody Lane, congrats on those contacts, yes. AB4P, good evening from Tennessee, Bill Malman. KI5GZW in Arkansas. Southeast Colorado, just got over a foot of snow here 2 days ago. That's about what we had, was a foot. Good evening from down east Maine, W1AXS. And Richard Swartz from New Mexico. Mike Brown from Conifer, WD0GPS. Dave Edmonds is there. Whoops, I lost him. I'm sorry, the comments are coming in so thick and fast, I've been losing them. They go flipping up the screen, I can't see them all. Let's see, Jesus Moreno says hello from KP4WR in Orlando. Thumbs up from Todd Gillum. Carlos Zerbini says greetings from Argentina. Lima Uniform 9 Hotel Zulu Charlie. And Ken says hi, KE8HZZ. Conifer, which is in Colorado, WD0GPS. Okay, I remember we got that one. Richard said hello from New Mexico. Okay, Stuart says greatly appreciate the extra videos. Big help while studying for the upgrade. Good. EG7MW Greg Weber. AE0JZ in Iowa. KD2ONL Tim from Western New York. Don has had a reprieve with a good reverse mortgage proposal. Don, I'll bet that is a huge load off your mind. I remember last week you were in trouble there. Pocatello, Idaho, KI7BSJ, KF0BB Day, Sauk Rapids, Minnesota. And agoraphobic Adam, K04HPC, outskirts of Nashville. Agoraphobic is fear of open places, if I remember right. Whoops. Let's see. I'm going to have to, well, what time have we got? Oh, still got a few minutes here. Let's see. Gary Wixom, AA7GW, Marana, Arizona. West Coast Hops 1, Dave, KJ7OTQ, and VK2YIO from Sydney, Australia. Charlie says hi from K6PWC in San Jose, temperature 75. Yeah, well, you got fires to go with it. That I imagine the air quality out there is not very good right now. Boyd KO4GJO from Hillsboro, North Carolina. I think I've been there. Keith P. Pouring rain in Concord, New Hampshire. Tom WN2FMM. And Terry says good evening. JT 6188 KFFZ. Joda is Joda. It's somebody will know what Joda is. Jamboree on the Air. It's a Boy Scout thing. It is a Boy Scout thing. Let's see what we can do here. Well, that's not helping much. We'll take the brightness down a little bit. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. There we go. Yeah. Oh well, just bad lighting tonight. Let's see. Okay. And Lima Alpha 2, Victor Lima Alpha. I'd all from Minnesota, Longmont. Yeah, Jamboree on the Air. It is a Boy Scout thing. They go to the jamborees, which I guess are very large scouting gatherings. Usually at some big scout camp. They'll often have 1,000 scouts at one of these. And they try and make it possible for those kids to get lots of merit badges and be exposed to new things. Okay. Oregon, New Tech, KJ7RTW. from ZL1CE from Auckland, New Zealand. Lafayette, Louisiana, Germany. Oxnard by the beach. Well, I know where Oxnard is. I've been there. Fullerton, been there. Las Vegas, Nevada. I have a sister there. KE1HD, KC3PEZ. I'm skipping some, I think, here. I didn't mean to skip anybody, but this thing rolls around so much. Yeah, I can imagine, Don. That would be a huge relief. Local particle count is not too bad in the Bay Area there. That's good. It must be improved. My wife has a friend out in that area. Let's see if that helps any. My wife has a friend out in San Ramon who is just dealing with terrible air right now. Here, it was a beautiful day. It's a little warmer. We got past, the snow that we had. We had about 12 inches of snow. Let's see. Norfolk, Virginia, largest naval base in the world. KC4 UFO. That almost looks like it might be a vanity call sign. N0QFT Glen from far west, 34 degrees Fahrenheit, causing touch. The touch lamps, also you might put ferrite beads on the cords for the touch lamps up close to the lamp. Might do that there too. Indonesia is here. EUH, greetings. Don, we'll be glad after the election hoopla winds down. I think we all will. I've already voted. My wife and I took our ballots down, put them in the county drop box, and we have voted. And so we keep hearing about the election on the air, and we keep going, stop. Just do it, get it over with. But do vote. I think the voting turnout in this election will be the highest in history. So be part of history. Vote. My fire department is trying to get the juniors their tech licenses. This is good. You need 3 or 4 or 5 youth together in a group to start a group and get the group going. So it's a good thing to have multiple kids because they'll bond with each other. And they'll keep wanting to come back so that they can see each other. Clinton, Ontario. Let's see. I think we'll have a good idea Tuesday who the next president will be. And Sean says his wife passed her tech test with your vid. Say hello to KD9QPY. Well, hello there, Mrs. Sean. We've got Brazil, Papa Uniform 4, Echo Charlie Lima. Yes, we should all vote. Okay, so it's officially time to start, so I'll show the Thursday screen. All right, we've seen it. We're official now. We can go over questions. A couple of announcements. First of all, this is the last of the Thursday live streams on daylight savings time. We're 6 hours. It's 0100 UTC, 0102 UTC right now. Well, we're going to fall back, so it'll be at 0200 UTC. Actually, at 0145 that will start. We're going to keep it at 7 p.m. local mountain time. And I know that's a problem for people in other countries, and I apologize for that. We need a day when it can be noon everywhere, and then we can do it together, I guess. Yeah. Oh, and I did go online, Don, and check the online system and discovered that my ballot was received and accepted. So that's good. All right. Do I have any advice for someone building up their ham shack? Yes, I certainly do. Go to dcasler.com/ reference. And you'll see the reference station there. Now it's more aimed at a general. There's a little stuff there for a tech that can help you. What would be your next radio if you got the option to choose one out of the current radios on the market? I'd probably go back to my Yaesu FTDX 3000. That's a really nice radio. I got the ICOM 7300, which is a wonderful radio, but I got it because that's what's in the reference station. And I want to have the reference station set up so that I can make videos about it. The ICOM 7610 is also a sweet little rig. Let's see. Live stream if you have JSA call and 10 meters fired up. Wow. Okay. Yeah, it never changed in Arizona, although the Navajo reservation does change. So that makes it a little entertaining, trying to figure out what time it is when you travel through there. We can't get from here to Phoenix without going through the Navajo reservation. So we got to keep track of the time. We usually take 2 days to do it, and we'll stay in Kayenta. There's a real nice Hampton Inn in Kayenta that we stay at there. Yeah, daylight saving time, you're right. Not daylight savings time, but that's what people call it. Okay, living in Arizona when they tried daylight savings time, it was too hot at bedtime and everyone complained. Oh, I can understand. Hello from Austria. Just passed ham exam last week. Welcome aboard, Steve. And I'm glad the videos help. Flex Radio 6600. Yeah, now there's a high-end radio for you. Of course, you need a big computer to go with it, too. And then you want the great big display and all that kind of fun stuff. So, let's see. What was the other announcement? Let's see. My airplane is in for its annual. It should have finished that up today, and they were going to do a few things to it. And I'm going to do some things, and we're going to defer some things. And so I hope to be back in the air. I have not been in the air since September. Hope to get back in it. Vote early and vote often. Yes, I've heard that before. That's sort of the Chicago approach to voting from what I've heard back under Mayor, the Elder Daley, Richard Daley. Lots of dead people were voting. Okay, well, very good. And Don, I'm glad that's working out for you, and we pray for you. Trash daylight savings time, go back to standard time. Noon ought to be when the sun's at its highest point for the day. I would actually prefer to stay on daylight savings time the whole year because it makes the evening a little easier. Rather than, I used to hate it when we'd go to standard time and I'd have to walk from work out to the parking lot to my car in the dark and snow and all that terrible stuff. Yeah, I just prefer light, but we can't do that. Physics won't let us. So okay. Let's see. Hello everyone in the chat. Thinking about the 6700. There's lots of great radios out there today. Okay, well, let's dive in and take a look at the questions. By the way, I told you last week that I'm going to do a video every day, and I have. Okay, now, this video counts for the Thursday video. I didn't do a separate Thursday video, but I'll do one tomorrow, and I'll do one on Saturday, and so on. I'll try to include the airplane somehow once a week. I did a little video about this defunct, this thing right here is the defunct Attitude instrument that came out of the radio. It's been replaced by a Garmin G5, which is a much nicer instrument anyway. Here in South Dakota, one can get a personalized license plate. Make sure you get the ham radio one. In Colorado, they call them an SCL, specialized call license, special call license. And it's not just hams who can get them, but radio stations, television stations, people like that. And do I have cabin heat in the aircraft? Yes, I do. And I will be making use of it, that's for sure. Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I took some pictures of the airplane where they've got it all apart for the annual, but there's not enough there to make a complete video about it, so I'll do that. I'm looking for a station VHF, UHF radio at the moment. Do you have any recommendations? I'm thinking of the IC 9700 is a nice radio. That's a pretty hefty radio. If you're just going to do FM, that's gross overkill. But if you're going to experiment with single sideband on 6 meters, 2 meters, and so on, yeah, by all means. Okay, well, I'm glad you enjoy the daily vids. I'm trying to do those. And, see, from South Carolina, I was able to get a ride in a Pilatus PC-12. Oh my goodness, that must have been fun. Had my radio plates since 1991, and both my cars in Texas are allowed to have my call sign plates. Really? They wouldn't let me do that. My truck has my call sign, and my wife's Subaru has her call sign. So, oh, I know. There's, I remember the big, I read an article about a Siberian town that was going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on daylight savings time. The choice was either the kids went to school in the dark or came home in the dark. Either way, they were going to do it, as the days are so short there. Okay. Oh, they gave it to you, a K-17. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, the 9700 will do really well on satellite work. Yes, it will. Yeah, the problem I had a telescope, but I had a 10-inch dog. A very nice telescope. And it had a little computerized tracker thingy on it, so I could watch the indicator and it would allow me to point at something. And, but the thing I discovered about astronomy was, first of all, it's done at night. I like to sleep. And second, it doesn't matter if it's August. Here in Colorado, at night, it is cold. It gets down to the 50s, 40s, and so on at night, even in the summer. So you go out there when you'd rather be sleeping and you freeze your butt off. Anyway, that's the way I looked at it. So I ended up selling the telescope. Ham radio you can do anytime. Although there are contests where you can be up all night. Greg Murran, thank you very, very much. He says, Dave, your daily videos are so much appreciated during this pandemic. Channel funds, keep up the great work. KJ6ER in Silicon Valley. Well, thank you very much and appreciated. From Okinawa, we have Kadena Air Force Base, 7 Japan 1 Alpha Delta Japan, from Joseph Petrov. And cool. Does my wife get on the air on a regular basis? No, she does not. She, the only person she talks, she's a tech, the only person she talks to is me. Sometimes we get on the air. I want to show something that I got. It's a t-shirt. And if you look really carefully at that, let's get it up here where we can see it. That's Samuel F.B. Morse's signature on the shirt. Okay, and this was sent to me as a freebie by a ham who's got a little side business making t-shirts, and I'm going to show you what that is. It's part97.com. That's an interesting way of looking at things. Let's just bring this over here and make it bigger. Okay. So he's got some interesting shirts here. Occupy Megahertz. FT8. Legal under Part 97. This is the Samuel F.B. Morse one right here. And he's run single sideband. He's got some really cool things. This is a parody on that shirt with the blue line. He's got a vertical there. They're just kind of fun t-shirts there that are about the price you'd pay for a novelty t-shirt, and it's at part97.com. So there you go, and thank you for the t-shirt. I appreciate it. I will definitely wear it. Also came with it were some little stickers. Like Go Play Radio. Let me get back to the normal view here. Some stickers like this one that says Go Play Radio that can transfer to a window of a car or something like that. So, very interesting. Hams are quite the entrepreneurs. So, let's see, Don, if you have, if you're an amateur astronomer into astrophotography, you undoubtedly have a polar mount for your telescope. The Dobsonian mount won't work for astrophotography because it doesn't take into account the curvature. And whereas the polar mount, they have a axis that points directly at the North Star, and then this thing rotates around that axis so that as the skies overhead rotate, this thing rotates with it. So you can take very long exposure pictures and pick up really, really faint objects and get the color in them. You know, we see Saturn with its rings and all that, but if you look at Saturn through a telescope, which I have, it's all black and white. There isn't enough color to stimulate the, the cones in the eyes that give you the color. But it's very interesting. Okay. How are the new choppers? No good yet. I went down to the dentist 2 days ago, and we're going to meet again in a week and see if we can try then, because it's not supposed to be sore anymore, but there's parts that are. So I am still on a liquid diet. We had to take a casserole tonight, throw it in the blender, and it wouldn't go, so we had to throw some milk in with it, and then it would go, and so my wife had casserole and I had mush. Oh, Butterbean found his QSL cards from 1991 today. Samuel F.B. Morse was a dashing fellow. Thank you. ... Yeah. No, the What Hath God Wrought is not on the back. The back is just plain. But that would, be enough to start some conversations and go, what on earth is that? And, well, let me tell you what that is. So, let's see. Stephen Brannon, thank you very much for your adding to the channel funds. Thank you for all you do in hobby and out. Me and a friend have and do use videos to help us. Good, I'm glad you do. That's the polar mount with the Alt-as mount. You need a field derotator, yeah. And Charlie has a 14-inch Dob that's fully computer guided, so some photography is possible. Yeah, you get a little curvature on the stars. It is possible to move the Dob mount up at an elevation that's equal to the number of degrees you are north of the equator. And then you can use the Dob mount to rotate and look straight out the end of the thing, and that will work too. Although Dobs really aren't designed for that sort of thing, you can do it. And that 10-inch, 14-inch mirror that you have really makes that easy. The telescopes that are polar mounted tend not to be anywhere near that big. I mean, you're getting into professional stuff at that point. Okay, good mush. Yes, it was. Lots of ice cream. I know. Chocolate, too. I usually like my chocolate with almonds in it, but recently I've been taking my chocolate unsullied because I can take a little piece and it melts in my mouth, and I can get quite a few calories in that way. So, my biggest scope's a 17.5-inch Dob. Wow! That's a big Dob. A Dobsonian is, by the way, the name of the mount, and it's basically just a yoke. It sits up, it's a yoke. At the bottom of the telescope, there's 2 screws, and you put them down in the yoke, and the thing goes this way. And then you can rotate it so that you can go this way. Unfortunately, there's no way to rotate a Dob so that it will follow a star without all the other stars turning into circles. So that's why you need the polar mount. The big astronomical telescopes are all polar mounts. We're 20 minutes into this and I haven't been talking ham radio. Let's take this first question from Karen Corrigan, KL4PG, and yes, she's in Alaska. And she says, we live in a small lot and our roof is metal. Alaska snow loads and winds keep us from using a roof antenna that runs on top of the roof. Is it possible to run the wire around the house under the eaves of the house low enough that the metal covered eave won't block it? It's a 1-story house with close neighbors 15 feet away, so the wire would be 8 to 10 feet off the ground. Karen, yes you can, but I will warn you that that is a severely compromised antenna, and it will not perform very well. It's down in the hole with all these big metal things around it. It will perform. What you might look at, if you can, is a vertical, because the vertical can be ground mounted in not very much space, and it'll at least have some portion up above the roof. Now, I understand the wind bit, and if you get freezing rain, that would be very hard on the vertical. But you could make a single band vertical, like a 33 foot for 40 meters, or half that for 20 meters, and see what you can do with some of those. And that would be what I'd suggest. But again, the old mantra, any antenna is better than no antenna. So go ahead and give it a try. Okay, this next one is from Craig Murran, KC3PEZ. A couple questions about the reference station antenna, the MFJ 2010. Yesterday's video, by the way, was about all the different antennas I considered in selecting the reference antenna, which is the 2010. How would it impact the performance to install a dipole such as this so the 2 legs form a 90-degree angle at the feed point? Well, you would get a weird pattern. You also might have a little trouble tuning it, but you can tweak the lengths just slightly and tune it. But would it work? Yes, it would work. Will it be directional? Yes, it will be directional in the direction that the V is pointed in. So if you got your V like this, it's this way that the antenna will be directional. Okay? So, like I said, any antenna is better than no antenna. And if that's what you can do, just do it. Just do it. And now that doesn't mean you won't get contacts off the back or sides of the thing, because you will. But you'll find that it will tend to favor that one direction. Fat is where the flavor is. Oh, you bet. Oh, you bet the fat is where the flavor is. Getting software ready for... Now, do you know if MRP40 will interface with N1MM? I don't know, and that's partly because I don't know what MRP40 is. Give me a little bit more information, and I'll see what we can do. Okay, that is, here is, Craig also asks, should he have concerns about static buildup on the antenna? Yes. Does the balen prevent static electricity from coming down the feed line? No, nothing does, except grounding it. I would be grounding the coax shield at the point it enters my shack, so I believe my equipment would be protected. I'd go ahead and add a lightning arrestor, but yes, that would do it. That'll take care of the static. Okay, he's doing an ICOM IC7100, which lacks a tuner, but that should work fine with that antenna on the whole band. Both bands, 20 and 40. Okay, and it does give him 2 meters and 70 centimeters, yes. And as I recall, you can do things like sideband and stuff like that with that particular radio. This is from David Wilson KU4B regarding the defunct artificial horizon. This is the defunct artificial horizon. Any chance you marked the position of the pots and then tried to move them? Barring another failure somewhere, finding a bad spot in those is very possible. I may have to look at that when I have some time. I am going to hook it up to 12 volts and use it as a curiosity, because you can actually see it try to do things as you move it around, the gyros in there. An interesting little part fell out of it. You can't even see that right there. See that little part that I have taped to the top? That fell out of this thing, and I have no idea where it came from. It looks like it was in a socket. I'll have to see what's going on with that. But I've got the G5 in there now, and I don't want to... If I put this back into the aircraft, it'll be as an extra. Yeah, I'll have to track them down. My thinking is there's a single failure because it worked and then it didn't. And that usually indicates one thing going wrong. So, now this is from Chris. Where's the name on here? Chris. Chris. He's got a picture of his cockpit, and this right here is his ham radio right there. And he just asked, is it legal for hams to operate ham radio while in the air? And the answer is yes, absolutely. You can do so. You can do so from any airplane as long as you have permission from the pilot. And all the airlines have a blanket prohibition on operating portable radios from their airplanes. So don't even try it on a commercial flight. However, if you're going on a small flight or private flight or going up with a friend, ask if you can take your handheld along, and you should be fine with that. Just sign Aeronautical Mobile. Sean McGrath, who is a patron and an Augie, has been doing some operating. He pilots a Pilatus, whatever it is. He pilots one of those, and he pilots charters, and he uses his handheld on that. He's got it Bluetooth in, so it comes in through his headset, and he does it on 146.52, and he's got some video that people have gotten of him doing maritime mobile. He keeps the QSOs very short, so we can talk to lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people, because lots of people like to work the aeronautical mobile. And I plan to do that, but not yet. I get my license first. I have not flown all of October, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of recovery. Okay. This is from David KE5ZZO. It says, more of an FYI. He just found out about a mode called M17, Mike 17, an open source competitor to DMR and D-Star. I hope you would get the word out to other hands about this new digital mode. I know nothing about it, but there is a website here. It's m17project.org. So look it up and see if that's something you want to play with. There are so many different digital modes. It seemed to me that what was bridging the gap between them was reflectors. If you went into this reflector on D-Star, it would also cross-connect to DMR. So you could get DMR and D-Star people talking to each other through one of these reflectors. There's several of those around. This one is from Raymond Thomas Anderson K7KCB. I'm building a long wire and I'm wondering how and if it needs chokes or balens. Yes, I think you will find that you want to. Otherwise, you've got to bring that wire all the way into the shack and connect it to your tuner, which will feed it very nicely. But the problem is it's an antenna from the moment it leaves that tuner, which means you've got part of your antenna sitting in your shack. What some people do is they'll run coax out to a balen, and then they'll drop a little counterpoise, and then they'll take that long wire out. Now remember the definition of a long wire. The definition of a long wire is more than, significantly more than, a full wavelength long. Okay, so a 40 meter long wire would be greater than 40 meters long, meaning greater than 132 feet long. Okay, you can use long wires. Oh, and long wires are directional, something to remember, in the direction of the wire. Slightly directional, so something to think about. But yes, try that long wire and you may find you get RF in the shack. So Doug King, thank you very much. He says, your courses and informative videos helped me just pass my tech and general at the same session. Keep it up. I certainly will, Doug, and thank you for putting something into the channel funds. I really appreciate that. It allows me to get these little things that we can take a look at. So let's see. This one is from Oscar KO4IRR. Hope you're doing well and those fires in Colorado are not affecting you and your family. They are not. They've got fires on the Front Range about 200 miles away from us, and they've had some fires up north of Grand Junction, and there was a little fire up north of Durango, but I haven't heard anything about it, so they must have gotten that contained. He says he just got a cheap Balfang Triband Chinese radio so I can learn my way around the frequencies, but I can't seem to be able to program it the right way. I see two frequencies in the info for the repeater. Downlink 147.12 and uplink is 147.72. Yes, both up and downlink are 103.5 megahertz and offset 0.6. No, that can't be right. Uplink, downlink, in what order do you enter the frequencies? Okay, there are two ways of writing frequencies for repeaters. One way is to write the repeater output frequency, which is the downlink, the repeater output frequency, comma, the direction, up or down. Up means plus 600, down means minus 600, okay? That's one way they're written. In the Balfang software, when you go to program them online, they want the transmit frequency, which is the uplink frequency, and they want the receive frequency, which is the downlink frequency. And they don't care a hoot about the separation because you put in both frequencies. Now, if you program through chirp, it does it differently. You put in the downlink frequency, and then you put in the offset. No, actually you don't, because it assumes the offset is 600 kilohertz on 2 meters, 4 megahertz on 440. It assumes that all it needs is an up or a down, and you usually pull down a little thing, say plus or minus, and that's what you need. So chirp, Balfang, chirp, Balfang. Balfang tells you you should use chirp. Chirp is free. You go to chirp, the word chirp, like a bird, chirp, period, Dan Planet, DANPLANET.com. Okay? And then you find out if your radio is on there, and if it's Balfang, it should be. And then you can download that software. They're updating it all the time. And then you can program it from that and program that into your radio. Now, the actual Balfang software wants the uplink and downlink frequency. Uplink is the transmit frequency. Downlink is the receive frequency. Okay? And if you're doing it with one frequency plus an offset, it's the down frequency, the receive frequency, that you want to put in there. Hope that helps. Okay, let's go back over to the inbox. This is a summary from John Thompson of his work using the Zygo G90 portable with CW-QRP from a car. John Thompson KA6GMA says, work portable from my car using a Zygo G90 CW 5 watts using a CUDI, which is a sideswiper key. In a 3-month span, I logged 42 hours, 18 contacts, 13 states. That amounts to 1 contact every 2.33 hours. I operated from a parking lot at work, getting on before going into work, and twice a week during lunch. I agree that to work QRP takes perseverance and patience. I get a thrill when someone answers my CQ or when I answer someone's CQ. I believe in getting on the air when I can and not to pay attention to the propagation reports. Well, John, thank you for that. The difficulty that John is dealing with is that antenna on his car. It's very much less than optimum. With a good antenna, a nice dipole, you can easily work lots of CW with a QRP radio. But he's doing it also mobile, so kudos to John. Okay, the next one is from Glen Johnson KA6GMA. Found the article about radio math. Oh, I should talk about that. That article. Oh, golly. I'm in the latest QST. If you go to November QST, the second feature article is my article on radio mathematics. And for some reason, I never got the proofs. They sent me proofs twice. They've since revised their processes to follow that up with a phone call. But it never got proofed and errors crept in. You can find the fixed article on the QST in depth, which is their online version. Also, you can go to my website, go to dcasler.com/imaginary, and you'll find there a link to the corrected article. The problem was that somebody who was not familiar with complex analysis did the editing and some errors crept in. Now, the article is different from the one I submitted because they did editing to the prose too. And I'm going to accept that. That's a normal part of publishing, that your prose gets edited. So I'm not going to put up my original article. I'm going to put up the fixed article, or have already put up the fixed article, which you can read there. Now, one thing I wish that they had done the polar notation as magnitude and then a slash and an underline underneath the phase. Magnitude slash phase with an underline under the phase. But I guess for some reason they couldn't. Their publication system wouldn't allow it. So they've got them in there as ordered pairs. And the problem is you can represent Cartesian coordinates as ordered pairs too. But oh well. Anyway, here it is. Found your article fascinating on radio math. It was a review of topics that I have forgotten and not used for some time. I have often struggled through the math and wondered if you had an Excel or other program that does the calculations in the article. No, I did them myself. Was trying to employ it in SimSmith and wasn't successful yet. Any suggestions or programs that take away the tedious math? Not tedious, it's math. I've got a degree in math. Math is wonderful. No, I don't. There might be some calculators that will do complex arithmetic, multiplication, and so on. Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed the article. It is based on the section in the Amateur Extra Training Manual from the League that talks about radio mathematics. And then I went into the next section after that where it talks a little bit about reactance and how you can use complex analysis to really understand how resistance and reactance all react together. And so it's really amateur extra material. And I was surprised they published it in QST. They usually don't publish material like that in QST. I'm glad they published it. I wish it had worked a little better. But the corrected article is available. Okay, let's put that one away and take a look at this next one. This is from Eric Johnson, KE0OG. Hello, Dave. I don't know if you've addressed this in a previous video, but how do you deal with static buildup on an outdoor coax-fed dipole antenna? Lightning arrestor. I've heard a variety of answers from a one-to-one isolation transformer to bleeder resistors, both of which will work, and wanted to know what you recommended. Lightning arrestor is what I recommend, because if that voltage, now there's two legs of the dipole, half's connected to ground, the other half is not. It comes all the way to the radio. But where there's a lightning arrestor, there's a spark gap there, and if the voltage builds up too much, it'll dissipate right there in the spark gap. Right there. So you don't have to worry about it anymore. So that is what I would do. The one-to-one isolation transformer, which is basically an un-un, okay, costs money and you'll lose a little power. Bleeder resistors, if you put in like a 100K bleeder resistor, it will dissipate almost no power, but it will dissipate that static charge. That would work too. Okay. So PK Roth, measuring ground system efficiency, was watching Ask Dave 242 extensive ground system at N6GR and was surprised to learn there is an instrument to measure the efficiency. It measures the resistance of a ground system. The unit used in the video is quite expensive, over $1,000. Is there a way to make the same measurement without the expensive instrumentation? No. However, the one I have was a $300 Chinese one. And Brad gave me, he got two. He got a used US one and a used Chinese one, and he trusted the US one more, so he just gave me the Chinese one. And I've used the Chinese one, and it worked quite well. You have to measure a loop. There's got to be a loop somewhere. So if you have like a grounding rod here and your utility ground here, and they are bonded together, you've got a loop. It loops down through the utility ground, through the ground, up through the ground rod, and so on, and back to that wire. So you can measure anywhere in there. It induces a current at 3 or 4 kilohertz and measures the resistance, which is really the DC resistance. You want it to be under 5 ohms, ideally. It's hard to get that, but ideally would like to do that. So that is what you would use. I took it to a club meeting one time, and I don't think anybody there had seen one except somebody who had done a lot of electrical utility work. And you've got to be careful the way you use them, because it's possible to use it in such a way that you get an erroneous reading, and so you don't want to do that. This is from Earl DW1PM. My station experiences intermittent high, meaning greater than 2.5 to 1 SWR on the tuner, causing the amplifier to cut output power. I have had that same problem. I tune carefully, usually for 7225 net, SWR on tuner 1.06 to 1 more or less. After several transmissions, the SWR starts climbing, not every day, but most days. If I retune the, you've got a loose connection somewhere. If I retune the SW, it drops some, but not all the way back. I have eliminated coax issues, taking the lightning arresters out of the line, changed the feed coax. To the extent possible, I have sealed the coax and antenna connections to stop water getting in. Running a 7300 Palstar LA 1K amp, Palstar HF auto tuner. My ground does not appear to have any loops. Problem seems mostly to occur on mornings with high dew, or when the sun hits the antenna. Okay, you've got something in there interacting with water. Do you have an insulator in your dipole that will soak up water or collect water? Now that could be, if you use a piece of wood as an end piece or a middle insulator, that can soak up water and that will change the SWR. Obviously water getting into the cable, but the water getting into the cable won't act that fast. Now the other possibility is that you've already got water in the cable, and as you use this, it's heating it up and driving it out, and if it turns some to steam, that's going to change your SWR. But it sounds like you've replaced all the coax. I would just look for something that is absorbing water somehow. Okay, and that's the only thing that I can think of. It should tune 1.06 to 1. It should tune close to 1 to 1 with an external tuner. And I had a problem that was with an intermittent. What it was my HF9V, the poles that make up the antenna, where they fit into each other and I had to screw through them, they were so old that they were flexing like this in the wind, and it would make contact, not make contact, make contact, not make contact, and of course the amp would drop out. So I replaced the antenna. It was so old, it had literally worn out. Okay, let's see. Got time for a few more. This is from Kent K9AEE. Dave, respectively, there is one thing that has been bothering me since I watched your first grounding video. You are using braided ground strap exposed outside. In fact, I am. But not the main ground line from the station down there. The ARRL grounding book says do not use braided strap where it might be exposed to water. Okay. K7FP, it's actually KF7P, also says on their catalog page for the braided strap for best results, do not use where exposed to weather or moisture. And good points. I need to replace mine with a ground copper strap. About 1 inch wide, thin copper down to the ground rod. Right now it's a number 6, number 2. It's number 2 stranded wire. It's very heavy wire, number 2. And got lots of surface area because it's stranded. And it works fine. And it's strapped to the ground rod with a stainless steel hose clamp and works fine. But yeah, there is some braided strap outdoors, and that just goes up about 2 feet up to the bottom of a mast that's the one that holds up my VHF antenna. So, but yes, he says, I think I have watched every ham video you've made, including all of Ask Dave, the 3 licensing guides, and the live videos. I do miss the scenic photos at the end of the videos. Yeah, I put those in the amateur extra videos because somebody wanted them, and nobody commented about them. So when I started making Ask Dave again, I didn't put them in, and nobody said anything. So I haven't been putting them in. This one is from Andrew, N7DUC. I just set up my home station with the Yaesu FD450 and a Samlex power supply. Nice rig. The provided power cord for the radio is quite long, especially since the 2 pieces are on a small desk. I also noticed that the ground floor in my station is somewhat high, like S9 Plus, with a squelch off, S3 with a squelch in full. The squelch shouldn't have anything to do with it. Is shortening the cord likely to have any effect on the noise floor? It might. Is there any reason other than spacing and location to have a longer power cord to the radio? Yes. It's for when it's used for mobile work in your car. Those wires need to go all the way to the battery. And that's why the fuses are near the end, right at the battery, because that's where they should be for mobile installation. If you do shorten the wire, make sure you include the fuses. Keep the fuses in there. Now, I would recommend strongly that you put in a proper ground rod, that you bring the ground into your station to a proper station single point ground, and that you ground your 450. I also strongly recommend that you bring your antenna down to the ground rod to a lightning arrestor, and then from there into the radio. And I can't guarantee, but I can strongly suggest that that's where a lot of your noise is coming from. That will really help the noise problem. Okay, so we'll do another one here. This is Gary B. Wixom, AA7GW. I have a Chameleon CHA Spider ASB with 10, 15, 20, 40 mini shark ham sticks. Oh, okay, that's the equivalent of the MFJ Octopus. It's about 25 feet in the air for tuning. All bands tune okay except 10 meters. I get 2 points for the lowest SWR at 28.775 and 29.5. Forget the 29.5. You don't need that. That's FM operating territory. There's very little 10 meter FM. And you want to pull that 28.775 down further, down to about 28.4. 28.4. The former's 200 kilohertz, that's good. The latter's very narrow. Yeah, just don't worry about that one, because there's nothing up there. Steep skirts on both sides. I'm planning on moving the first point down a bit to be more in the portion of the band I want to use. Yes, however, the stingers are extended as far as I can get them. You can actually, it's hard to solder to those stingers because they're chrome plated. You could use a hose clamp. Would be too big. Use some sort of a little device that pinches them. Longer stingers from shark. What is it about the second low SWR point? What causes that? I think you're dealing with the fact that you're getting up closer to VHF. When you get up above about 12 meters and in 10 meters, things start to behave a little strangely. And that's what's happening there. Am I dealing with the resonance point versus SWR? Well, same kind of thing. I know they aren't always the same unless the resistive part is close to 50 and the imaginary part close to 0, yes. Perhaps they're a capacitive or type of coupling from one of the adjacent sticks. That's probably what's going on. I don't think I can use the low SWR spike part of the band because it is too sharp. I would use the one at 28.775, and if you can tune 200 kilohertz off of that, your radio, what is your radio? I don't see your radio here. If your radio has an internal tuner, it can tune up to 3 to 1. You can probably extend that a little bit down. You want to get down into the technician part of the phone band. on 10 meters. The 29.5, forget about, because that's in the FM part of the band, and there is some 10 meter FM activity. It's not quite zero. It's vanishingly approaching zero, but it's not quite zero. Okay. Let's see. New entry contact form. Oh my, this is a long one. How much time do we have? You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to come back over here to live streaming and look at some of the questions that were raised. Okay. OZZIE KO4IRR put $5 into channel funds. Thank you very, very much. 5 megahertz on 440. Okay, thank you. You're right. I missed that one. Might be the source depending on how you have the antenna run, yeah. Maybe you need a subtone which will be set with the TCTCS. Yes. I have ridden in a four-seater high Cessna high-wing airplane, and one twin engine is a Young Eagle with EAA, which I'm a member of, by the way. And the other aircraft I haven't been in is a helicopter. Okay, well, Timothy, if you have your license, you can actually operate from the air there. Worth noting that Chirp works on both Windows and Linux. That is good. Don, that could be. See, Dave, so awesome to see your live stream. Radio Oklahoma. It's really funny that Balfang, which has the software, recommends Chirp. Yes, they do. But for their radios that do DMR, they have to provide the software because Chirp, at least the last time I checked, has steadfastly refused to include digital modes in their programming software. They're going to end up being irrelevant if they keep that up. They need to include that. Just started reading your article. My QST arrived yesterday. You might want to go to my website, dcasler.com/imaginary, and you will find a link there to a PDF that will give you the corrected article, so that you won't be scratching your head trying to figure out what on earth. So, questions for UHF. Okay, rectangular notation. Read the article. Rectangular would be in Cartesian coordinates. The opposite of rectangular, well, not opposite, the analog to rectangular notation is which is Cartesian coordination, is polar, where you have vectors, where you have a magnitude and a direction. Rectangular, you have a real component plus an imaginary component. So like, for example, if you have an antenna analyzer and it'll say R equals 50, X equals 5, well, that means the real resistance is 50 ohms and the imaginary reactance is 5 ohms, either capacitive or, if it's negative, capacitive, if it's positive, inductive. Okay. Let's see, JT6188 has added $10 to the channel funds. Thank you. Bowl of hot popcorn and KE0OG, better than the movies. Oh my goodness. Math, you may have my portion, Dave. Oh, it's not that bad. Brings back memories, Euler's identity, and so on. Math, that may divide the group. Oh, it can't divide the group as much as politics does. Through the ads first, then back to read the articles. And this is from Glenn, said he enjoyed the article. SC says the article makes the math intuitive. Thank you. It's a very good one. By the way, you may want to vote for it. Yes, it's up for Article of the Month. I did an Article of the Month. This was April 1996. I got the QST Cover Award for my article on solar power. It's sitting down there because when I rearrange the room, I don't have a place to put it. Makes the math intuitive. Can you do an Ask Dave episode on how Fresnel propagation happens? I'll have to look into it. It's lensing. It's lensing. Without math, you can't spell ham. Well, oh, okay, with an added T. More ads than articles. Ham radio has been picking up, so QST's been getting thicker. The league has been asking people to submit articles, so their supply's getting low. They approached me to write this article, by the way, a little over a year ago. They wanted an article on the FCC logo, which I did several months ago, and then they wanted an article on the radio math, which I did and submitted over a year ago. And it's taken till now to publish. Fresnel propagation, I'll have to look at that. Mathematics are like if to the proctologist. Oh, come on. Holler's great. I can go to the digital edition to place a vote. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. What is the best, vertical or dipole? I have a video on that very question, vertical or dipole, and the answer is they both work. They both work just fine. If you can't get the dipole very high, the vertical might give you a little better DX, but otherwise, it does pretty well. Let's see, something's going on here. And we're getting some strangeness. I'm sorry I had to do this, but I'm going to have to remove. Let's see. I don't do this very often, so I don't know. There. Okay. Occasionally somebody, I don't know if he was leaning on a key or what, but it happened. Okay. Vertical antennas, horizontal dipoles have different characteristics, pros and cons. I have both. I find the dipole, since I can't get it up very high, is better for close-in stuff and the vertical for longer stuff. I also have a hex beam out there on a rotator, so that's pretty cool. That resistance meter also measures admittance. Yes, that's one of the reciprocals and one of the reactive things. Recommend minimum height for tri-band beam 10, 15, and 10. 20, 15, and 10. Well, for 20, I go 33 feet. For 10, go half of that, about 15, 16 feet. If you go higher than that, you're going to get lensing. And let me show you what lensing is. We're just a titch over time, but let me just show you what lensing is. If I can get the pen out here. Here is a vertical, okay, and the pattern looks about like this, okay? Now, if you put up a dipole at a half wavelength high, okay, the pattern is going to be a single lobe, looks about like that. It'll actually be up a little bit. Okay. Now, if you go higher than a half wavelength, here's what happens. The pattern starts to look like this. Okay? You're starting to develop a second lobe. If you go all the way up to a full wavelength, you're going to get a pattern that looks like this. This is called lensing. And if you take a 10 meter Yagi and put it on top of a 100-foot tower, your pattern is going to be like this. This is called lensing. And you will notice that there are areas where there's nulls. So you won't be sending any energy in those directions. This is why contesters will often have the same antenna at different spots on the tower, so they can switch between the antennas and pick up the right lobe. So that's what lensing is. That's what happens there. The usual tin ground braid shouldn't be bothered by rain. Well, the problem is the tinning can break with the wind, and you get water inside. Okay, 10-meter copper J-pole. Well, you can. It'll be pretty big. It is possible to build a 10-meter J-pole if you use twin lead or ladder line for the matching section and then put it out horizontal. That will work. Okay, we are QST does pay for submissions. They do. I got $100 a page and it went into channel funds. So I got $400 for writing that article. Yes, they pay $100 a printed page for articles. It's not something you're going to live on. You're not going to live on writing for QST, but it's neat. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. We've got those. They call them infed ZEPs. The description in the ham radio, or the description in the ARRL antenna book and handbook, I don't think adequately describe a proper HF ZEP, because they feed it at the end of the feed line. They should short the end of the feed line. It should be a quarter wavelength long, and then you feed it up at the 50 ohm point, which is what the MFJ antennas do. And you can get for 20, you can get them for 15. I tested the one for 20, and it works like a champ. So that's a good. Lancing, yeah, mixed speakers, they do. What happens if I make my vertical counterpoise wire longer than a quarter wavelength? I don't know. Try it and find out. I really don't know. Looking forward to the DX Commander review. So am I. If I can just find somebody to help me build it. Okay, we are out of time. We have 219 concurrent viewers. Or we peaked out at that. Chat revenue of $39 going into channel funds. Thank you very much. 80 likes. It's not too late to like. Not too late to throw a little something into the channel funds. And I'm just excited about this channel. I'm excited about doing a video a day. The videos are pretty short and about pretty simple subjects because I have to do the whole thing in about 2 hours. When I first started Ask Dave, it was taking me 3 days to make a video. And, you know, I've greatly shortened the production time, but in order to get it into 2 or 3 hours in a day, I've got to, you know, pick something fairly simple to talk about. But I'm going to try and do that. How high should I mount my new MFJ 2010? Get it up over 20 feet. I think you'd be fine with that. The higher you can get it, 30 feet would be great. Okay, and Felipe Lewis, thank you very much for another $10 into channel funds. Appreciate it. Neil Marsh says thanks for another Thursday evening. Don DeGidio says another great stream. Stay safe. And Ben T has added $5 to the... that looks a lot like me in that picture there. Old guy with a beard. And great live stream, Dave. 73, all. Don't forget to click like. Yes. So I'm going to say 73. We will get together again next week at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Okay? The whole nation switches at once, except for those who don't switch, like the most of Arizona. I guess there are a couple other places like that. And we will see you then. So until then, I want to wish you 73. Have a happy Halloween, and no matter what you do, vote, 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 vote. 73. Talk to you later. And thank you, Steve, for the €2. Thank you. We'll put those in the channel feed. Thank you very much. So, 73 to all.